violence happens the way that oppression happens, like it falls along power lines. So gender is one of the ways, right? But like patriarchy, like gender oppression hurts men in, even though they benefit from it, but like the way that young men, I have lots of personal experiences with people that identify as men that were sexually abused as children by women, and they were told that they needed, that it was actually like a gift to them, like that was their masculinity and they should have liked it. And so the way they interpret it in their lives was that it was they should have liked it and there's something wrong with them for not liking it. And so it's kind of the ways that gender oppression of men, like where patriarchy and this idea that men are hypersexual actually hurt those men, right? Restorative justice can have a huge role in helping people name what's invisible so that we can all see and come from like a different understanding, or come to a different understanding about the ways that our actions impact each other. Even in the case that I'm working on now, people weren't aware of the ways that their actions before this moment of harm impacted each other. And so what's going to happen when they come together is they're going to get to talk about not just the moment of harm, but all of the moments before where these girls were feeling used, these girls were feeling that they had to succumb to, they had to like fit in with these guys, so they had to swallow parts of themselves to be able to do that. And that it was a constant thing for the girls, and these boys just didn't know, like they honestly didn't know. And so what's going to happen is all of those things will be made visible. With the survivors that I've worked with, when it comes to sexual harm, restorative justice allows them to imagine what they need for the harm to be repaired. In the criminal legal system, I don't think we ask them, like, we don't ask them, what do you need for the harm to be repaired? We don't ask for them to imagine all of the ways that this person could show that they're not going to do it again, or that they want to make it right. And so with restorative community conferencing and with Circle, survivors are so imaginative. They come up with plans that are beyond what I could ever have thought would come out. And they also seem to have, at least in the cases I've worked on, a very altruistic nature. Like they come from a place of, this happened to me and I don't want this to happen to anyone else ever again. And so I am creating a plan with you that makes me know you won't do it again. And so a lot of the pieces that they add are educational, like for the young person to learn about rape culture, to learn about consent, to learn about patriarchy and masculinity. So before I got the Soros Fellowship, I was just supporting facilitators that were getting sexual harm cases from the district attorney mostly. Yeah, I think they were all from the district attorney. So these were sexual harm cases that had risen to the level of arrest, basically. So the restorative justice program was a post-arrest, pre-charge program. So the young person had been arrested for stuff that happened in, everything happened in schools. With the Soros Fellowship, I got to work with an amazing school district that actually changed their district policy to allow restorative justice to be used for sexual harm cases. They still have requirements, like there's certain, when certain harms happen, they're required to suspend and recommend expulsion, and when other harms happen, they're required to report to law enforcement. So we don't get around those. But for other cases, they can divert directly to me, which is awesome and amazing. And so the case that I have now, the school district contacted me and sent me the case because it's a case that wouldn't have risen to the level of criminal charges. There's not an arrestable offense, but there's still harm. And so it's kind of this perfect, I mean, I'm not happy that the harm happened, but it's a kind of perfect teachable moment and empowering moment for all the young people involved when survivors tell people what happened and then they think nobody does something about it because it wasn't a crime or it wasn't something that a kid could be expelled for. They feel that nothing's been done. So this feels like a beautiful opportunity to support everyone in doing something, even though it doesn't rise to the level of arrest or expulsion. I've facilitated and or supported facilitators in doing cases that were one-on-one sexual harms, and then I am also doing cases where there's multiple people involved. And so when there's a lot of people involved, I imagine using the circle process, like kind of preparing the young folks to know who's going to talk more, maybe who feels more harmed and who feels more responsible, but passing a talking piece to find out how everyone was impacted and what everyone needs. And when it's a one-on-one sexual harm, I've used the Restorative Community Conference, so the victim gets to say what happened and then ask direct questions to the person that did the harm, like, why did you do it? What were you thinking? And they get to go back and forth, and then once people get tired of talking about harm, because that's just human nature, once I think the moment of acknowledgement happens and the questions are answered, folks feel ready to move into like, now what do I need? So in the one-on-ones with Restorative Community Conferencing, we talk about the harm. The victim gets to ask questions, and then they move into like, this is what I need from you to make it right. And we come up with a plan to repair the harm. As soon as they get the opportunity, they have so many ideas, beautiful ideas that are so meaningful to the person that did the harm because they come from the survivor. And if I was to impose those things, like if I was to impose on the young people responsible, like, you need to watch this documentary on rape culture, they really don't care as much because it feels like someone from the outside imposing something on them, which is like school, which is like the criminal legal system. But when it comes from the survivor, like, I need you to understand me, so I need you to watch this documentary, they want to do it. And they want to learn and not do those things in the future. So it's way more powerful. And also I think that in my experience, survivors, what am I trying to say? It like supports them in remembering or realizing that they have inherent wisdom and that they actually, their ideas are not only worth listening to, but really powerful. And so it reminds them of power in this kind of different way. Not power over, but power with, and that they actually have capability and wisdom to resolve harm as well. And yeah, I think